I was 9 when I first heard the word fluke used like a weapon. It was at a family barbecue in our backyard in suburban Ohio, the kind where the air smells of charcoal and sunscreen, and kids run wild until the fireflies come out. My uncle, Ray, a loud man with a beer gut and a laugh like a chainsaw, clapped a hand on my shoulder and said, "You know, Ethan, you're a fluke. Your mom wasn't supposed to have kids. Doctors said it was impossible." He chuckled, like it was a punchline, but the word stuck to me like gum on a shoe. I was a fluke, an accident, a glitch in the universe's code. My mom, Clara, was nearby, flipping burgers on the grill. She didn't hear him, or maybe she pretended not to. She was like that, always moving, always busy, her dark hair tied back in a messy bun, her smile quick but fleeting. She'd been sick for years, some autoimmune thing that made her joints ache and her energy fade, but she never let it show in front of me. To me, she was invincible. My dad, Paul, was the opposite, quiet, steady, the kind of guy who'd sit on the porch with a coffee and a book, watching the world like he was piecing together a puzzle. They balanced each other, or so I thought. That summer, I started noticing things. Whispers at family gatherings, aunts and cousins exchanging looks when Mom coughed too hard or sat down to catch her breath. "Miracle boy," they'd call me. But it didn't feel like a compliment. It felt like a question mark. Why was I here? Why did the doctors say Mom couldn't have kids, but I existed anyway? I'd lie awake in my room, staring at the glow-in-the-dark, stars on my ceiling, wondering if I was some kind of cosmic mistake. School didn't help. I was scrawny, with glasses too big for my face, and a habit of reading sci-fi novels at recess instead of playing kickball. Kids like Tommy Granger, who had a mean streak and a knack for finding weak spots, latched onto me. "Hey, fluke," he'd say, shoving me in the hallway. "You gonna disappear like you were never supposed to be here?" I'd laugh it off, but it stung. Every time someone called me a fluke, it chipped away at something inside me. Mom noticed. She always did. One night she found me in the kitchen, picking at a plate of cold spaghetti, my eyes red from crying. "Ethan," she said, sitting across from me, her hands folded like she was about to pray. "You are not a mistake. You're the best thing that ever happened to me and your dad. You hear me?" I nodded, but I didn't believe her. Not really. She hugged me, her arms thin but strong, and I smelled her lavender shampoo. I wanted to ask her about the doctors, about why everyone said I wasn't supposed to be, but I didn't. I was afraid of the answer. By the time I was 12, Mom's health was worse. She'd spend days in bed, her face pale, her voice soft. Dad took over cooking, which meant a lot of burnt toast and takeout pizza. He'd try to joke about it, saying, "We're surviving, right, kid?" But his eyes were tired, and I could tell he was scared. I started doing more around the house, laundry, dishes, anything to keep things normal. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to be the fluke who made things harder. One afternoon, I overheard Mom and Dad talking in their room. The door was cracked, and I stood in the hallway, holding my breath. "We need to tell him," Mom said, her voice shaky. "He deserves to know why." Dad's voice was low, stubborn. "Not yet, Clara. He's just a kid. Let him be a kid." I didn't know what they meant, but it felt like a secret about me. Something big. Something they were keeping locked away. That night, I had a dream. Mom was standing in a field, her hair loose, her arms outstretched like she was about to fly. She looked at me and said, "You're my proof, Ethan. Proof I was here." I woke up sweating, my heart pounding. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew one thing. Mom wasn't going to be around forever, and I was terrified of what that would mean for me. By high school, I'd learned to wear the word fluke like armor. I'd shrug when Tommy Granger or his buddies threw it at me, pretending it didn't hurt. I got good at pretending. I joined the robotics club, built a drone that could hover for 10 minutes straight, and started dreaming about college, maybe MIT or Caltech, somewhere far from Ohio where I could start over. But home was still a tightrope. Mom's health was a roller coaster. Good days where she'd bake cookies and laugh at my bad jokes. Bad days where she couldn't get out of bed. Dad was working overtime at the auto plant, his hands always smudged with grease, his face lined with worry. I was 15 when I found the box. It was in the attic, tucked behind a stack of Christmas decorations. I was looking for my old telescope, hoping to fix it for a school project. The box was small, metal, with a rusty lock that popped open with a screwdriver. Inside were medical records, yellowed and creased. Pages of jargon I didn't understand, but one phrase stood out. Infertility. Due to severe endometriosis and autoimmune complications. There were dates, before I was born. Notes about treatments that failed. A doctor's scrawl. Prognosis for pregnancy, highly unlikely. I sat there, dust motes floating in the attic's dim light, my stomach twisting. So it was true. Mom wasn't supposed to have me. I was a fluke, a 1 in a million shot. But there was something else in the box. A USB drive, labeled for Ethan, in Mom's handwriting. I shoved it in my pocket, my hands shaking. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't know if I wanted to know what was on it. School got harder. Not the classes. I aced those. But the social stuff. I was still the skinny kid with glasses. But now I had a reputation as the guy with the sick mom. Kids didn't know what to say, so they said nothing, which was worse. My best friend, Jamal, was the exception. He'd show up with comic books or drag me to the arcade, pretending everything was fine. "You're not a fluke, man," he'd say. "You're a freaking genius. Own it." I wanted to believe him, but the USB drive in my desk drawer felt like a ticking bomb. Mom's bad days were more frequent now. She'd been in and out of the hospital, her skin pale as paper, her smile forced. Dad started drinking more, not enough to be a problem, but enough that I noticed the empty beer cans in the recycling. One night, I heard them arguing again. "He's old enough, Clara," Dad said. "He's asking questions." Mom's voice was sharp, desperate. "Not like this, Paul. Not when I'm—" She stopped, and I knew why. She didn't want to say dying, but we all knew it was coming. I started carrying the USB drive everywhere, like a talisman. I didn't plug it in, though. I was scared of what I'd find. What if it was Mom saying goodbye? What if it was proof I really was a mistake? Instead, I threw myself into robotics, building a rover that could navigate a maze. My teacher, Mr. Larson, said it was college-level work. "You've got a future, Ethan," he told me. But the future felt like a trap when Mom was slipping away. One evening, I came home from school and found Mom in the living room, sorting through old photos. She looked small, wrapped in a blanket, but her eyes lit up when she saw me. "Come here," she said, patting the couch. She showed me pictures of her and Dad when they were young, laughing at a county fair, kissing under a Ferris wheel. "We wanted you so bad," she said, her voice soft. "You were our miracle." I wanted to ask about the USB drive, about the medical records, but I couldn't. Not when she looked so fragile. That night, I lay awake, the USB drive in my hand. I almost plugged it in, but I stopped myself. Not yet. I wasn't ready. But I knew one thing. Whatever was on that drive, it was Mom's truth, and I owed it to her to listen. Junior year was a blur of hospital visits and late-night study sessions. Mom was on a new medication, one that made her nauseous, but gave her a few good days. On those days, she'd insist on family dinners, even if it was just takeout Chinese and bad puns. Dad would try to keep things light, telling stories about his old band days, but the silences were heavy. I'd catch him staring at Mom when he thought no one was looking, his jaw tight, his eyes wet. I was 16 when it happened. I came home from robotics club, my backpack heavy with books, and found Dad on the porch, his head in his hands. "She's gone, Ethan," he said, his voice breaking. "This morning, at the hospital." I stood there, frozen, the world tilting. I don't remember much after that, just fragments. The funeral, a sea of black dresses and casseroles. Jamal sitting next to me, saying nothing, just being there. Aunts and uncles murmuring about how I was Clara's miracle, their voices dripping with pity. The house felt wrong without Mom. Her lavender shampoo was still in the bathroom, her favorite mug on the counter. Dad tried to keep things together, but he was unraveling. He'd sit in the living room, staring at the TV with the sound off, a beer in his hand. I didn't know how to help him. I didn't know how to help myself. The USB drive was still in my drawer. I'd take it out sometimes, turning it over in my hands, but I couldn't bring myself to watch it. What could Mom say that would make this okay? What could fix the hole she'd left? I threw myself into school instead, applying for scholarships, dreaming of escape. MIT sent me a brochure, and I taped it to my wall, a reminder that there was a world beyond this grief. But the word fluke followed me. At school, Tommy Granger and his crew were relentless. "Heard your mom died, Fluke," he'd say, smirking. "Guess miracles don't last." I wanted to punch him, but I didn't. I'd learned to swallow my anger, to channel it into code and circuits. My robotics team won regionals that year, and Mr. Larson said I was the best student he'd ever had. It should have felt good, but it didn't. Nothing did. Dad and I drifted apart. He was working double shifts, avoiding the house. I was staying late at school, avoiding him. One night, I came home and found him asleep on the couch, an old photo of Mom in his hand. I realized then that we were both running from the same thing, the silence she'd left behind. I started having nightmares. In them, Mom was always just out of reach, her voice muffled, like she was underwater. "Watch it, Ethan," she'd say, pointing to the USB drive. I'd wake up gasping, my heart racing. I knew I couldn't avoid it forever. Whatever was on that drive, it was Mom's last gift to me. I had to face it. One Saturday, I was cleaning out the garage, trying to keep busy. I found an old camcorder, the kind Mom used to record my birthday parties. It hit me then. The USB drive probably came from that. I took it inside, my hands shaking, and plugged it into my laptop. The screen lit up with a file named "For Ethan." I hovered over the play button, my finger trembling. I wasn't ready, but I was out of excuses. I hit play. The screen flickered, and there was Mom, sitting in her favorite armchair. The one, with the faded blue flowers. She looked tired but determined, her hair thin, her eyes bright. "Ethan," she said, her voice steady. "If you're watching this, I'm probably gone. And I'm so sorry I couldn't stay longer." I paused the video, my chest tight. I wasn't sure I could do this. But I pressed play again, because I needed to hear her. "You've probably heard people call you a fluke," she said, leaning forward. "Maybe you've heard about the doctors, about how I wasn't supposed to have you. But I need you to know the truth." She told me everything. How she'd been diagnosed with endometriosis in her 20s, how the doctors said pregnancy was impossible, how she and Dad tried for years, through failed treatments and heartbreak. "We gave up," she said, her voice cracking. "But then you happened. Against all odds, you were there. My miracle. My proof that life doesn't follow rules." She talked about the day I was born, how she cried when she held me, how Dad couldn't stop smiling. "You were wanted, Ethan. Every second of you. Don't let anyone tell you different." She paused, wiping her eyes. I know I'm not perfect. I know I've been sick, and I hate that you've had to see that. But you've made every moment worth it. The video wasn't long, maybe 10 minutes, but it felt like a lifetime. She talked about her hopes for me: college, a career in robotics, a life full of love. You're not a fluke, she said at the end, her voice fierce. You're my legacy, and I'm so proud of you. The screen went black, and I sat there, tears streaming down my face, the weight of her words sinking in. I watched it again, and again. Each time it hurt a little less and meant a little more. I wasn't a mistake, I was hers. I was their miracle. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. I showed the video to Dad the next day. He cried harder than I'd ever seen, his shoulders shaking. She loved you so much, he said, his voice raw. I should have told you more. I just didn't know how. We talked for hours that night, about Mom, about the past, about the future. It didn't fix everything, but it was a start. At school, things didn't magically get better. Tommy Granger still called me Fluke, but it didn't sting as much. I had Mom's words in my head, her voice stronger than his. I threw myself into robotics, designing a prosthetic hand for a class project. Mr. Larson said it could win nationals. Jamal said I was going to change the world. I started to believe them. But the USB drive wasn't done with me. There was a second file, one I hadn't noticed before. It was labeled, "For Ethan, when you're ready." I didn't open it. Not yet. I had a feeling it was something bigger, something I needed to be stronger for. I kept it close, though, a reminder that Mom was still with me. Senior year was different. I was 17, taller now, my glasses swapped for contacts. I wasn't the scrawny kid anymore, though I'd never be a jock. Robotics was my world, and I was good at it. My prosthetic hand project got me a scholarship to Carnegie Mellon, full ride. When I got the letter, I took it to Mom's grave, a quiet spot under an oak tree. I did it, Mom, I whispered. I'm gonna make you proud. Dad was trying, harder too. He cut back on the drinking, started going to a grief support group. We'd have dinner together most nights, even if it was just microwave mac and cheese. He'd ask about my projects, and I'd tell him about servo motors and neural networks until his eyes glazed over. You're smarter than me, kid, he'd say, but he was smiling. The word fluke still came up sometimes. At a family reunion, Uncle Ray, half drunk, said it again. Still can't believe you're here, Ethan. Total fluke. I didn't flinch. Miracle, I corrected him, my voice steady. He blinked, surprised, and changed the subject. Jamal, who overheard, gave me a fist bump. That's my boy, he said. I still hadn't opened the second file on the USB drive. I carried it in my wallet now, a small weight that grounded me. I knew I'd watch it someday, but I wasn't ready. Mom's first video had given me strength. The second felt like a step I wasn't prepared to take. Not yet. School was a grind, but a good one. I was balancing AP classes, robotics, and college applications. Tommy Granger and his crew had mostly moved on to other targets, though he'd still smirk at me in the halls. I didn't care. I had a future, and it was mine to build. Mr. Larson became my mentor, helping me refine my prosthetic hand for nationals. You're not just building machines, Ethan, he said. You're building hope. I thought about Mom, about how she'd fought to give me a chance. I wanted to make that count. Dad and I started a tradition. Saturday movie nights. We'd watch old sci-fi flicks, the kind Mom loved. We'd laugh at the cheesy effects, and sometimes we'd talk about her. It wasn't easy, but it was real. One night, he handed me a photo of Mom from their wedding day. She'd be so proud of you, he said. I nodded, my throat tight. I hoped she was watching. As graduation approached, I felt the weight of leaving Ohio. Carnegie Mellon was a new start, but it meant leaving Dad, Jamal, and the house where Mom's presence still lingered. I was scared, but I was ready. Or at least I was getting there. Graduation came and went. I gave a speech as valedictorian, talking about resilience and chasing dreams. I mentioned Mom, how she taught me to fight for what matters. The crowd clapped, and Dad's eyes were wet. Jamal whooped from the back, embarrassing me in the best way. Summer was quiet. I worked part-time at a tech shop, fixing laptops and dreaming about Pittsburgh. Dad was doing better, even dating a little, a librarian named Susan who made him laugh. I liked her. She didn't try to replace Mom, but she brought light back into the house. One night I was packing for college, sorting through old books and clothes. The USB drive fell out of my wallet, clattering onto the floor. I picked it up, my heart racing. It was time. I plugged it into my laptop and opened the second file. For Ethan, when you're ready. It was Mom again, but this time she was outside, sitting on our porch swing. The sun was setting, painting her face in gold. She looked peaceful, almost healthy. Ethan, she said, smiling. If you're watching this, you're probably heading off to college or some big adventure. I'm so proud of you. She paused, her eyes soft. This video isn't about me. It's about you. She told me a story I'd never heard. When she was pregnant with me, the doctors warned her it could kill her. Her condition was fragile, and carrying a baby was a risk. Dad begged her to reconsider, but she refused. I knew you were worth it, she said. I felt you, Ethan. You were my purpose. She talked about the months she spent in bed, the pain, the fear, but also the joy. Every kick, every heartbeat, it was you, fighting to be here. And I fought with you. She leaned closer to the camera. You're not a fluke. You're a choice, my choice, and I'd make it again, every time. She talked about my future, how she wanted me to take risks, to love fiercely, to never let anyone make me feel small. You're my proof, Ethan, she said. Proof that love can beat the odds. The video ended, and I was sobbing, but it wasn't just grief. It was gratitude. Mom had chosen me, knowing it might cost her everything. I wasn't a mistake. I was her legacy, her fight, her love. I showed the video to Dad the next morning. He watched it in silence, tears streaming down his face. When it was over, he hugged me, something he hadn't done in years. She was right, he said. You're our proof. College was everything I'd hoped and more. Carnegie Mellon was a whirlwind of late nights, coffee, and code. I majored in robotics, minored in philosophy because Mom always said I asked too many questions. My prosthetic hand project turned into a startup idea, and by sophomore year, I was pitching to investors. Jamal, who went to Ohio State, called me a nerd mogul, but he was proud. Dad visited when he could, bringing Susan along. They got married my junior year, a small ceremony in our backyard. I gave a toast, talking about Mom, about how she'd want Dad to be happy. I meant it. Susan was kind, and she loved Dad. That was enough. The USB drive was still with me, in a box with Mom's old scarf and a photo of us at the zoo when I was 6. I didn't need to watch the videos anymore. They were part of me now. But sometimes when things got hard, exams, breakups, the pressure of building a company, I'd think of Mom's voice. You're my proof. It kept me going. Tommy Granger sent me a friend request on social media one day. I ignored it. He didn't get to be part of my story anymore. Uncle Ray, on the other hand, apologized at a family Christmas party. Didn't mean to hurt you, kid, he said. Awkward but sincere. I nodded, forgiving him because Mom would have wanted me to. By the time I graduated, my startup was funded, and I had a small team working on prosthetics for kids. We called it Claritech, after Mom. At the launch event, I played a clip of her video. Not the whole thing, just the part where she said, "You're my proof." The room was quiet, and I saw Dad wipe his eyes. It felt right. I'm 22 now, living in Pittsburgh, building a life I hope Mom would be proud of. The word fluke doesn't bother me anymore. It's just a word, and words only have the power we give them. Mom gave me something stronger. Her love, her choice, her fight. I carry that with me every day. If you like this story, please support our channel. Share it, leave a comment, or check out our other stories. Your support keeps us telling stories that matter.